once asked for anything back. No cameras, no banners, just a number and a standard no one touched. He ran like it mattered. Every game, every minute, like silence itself depended on him. And when it ended, no parade, no farewell tour, just a man walking away exactly how he arrived. Today they speak of new heroes. They chant for noise, they celebrate faces that never carried half the weight. But Bell carried everything and they let him fade. So this is not nostalgia. This is correction. This is the name they didn't shout enough. But we will speak it anyway. Subscribe if you still believe in men who built everything and never asked to be seen. Colin Bell was born on 26th of February 1946 in the coal village of Hesleden, County Durham. No press, no cameras, just a working class family and a boy who couldn't stop running. At age 16, he joined Bury as a youth. By 17, he had turned professional. By 18, he was captain. He wasn't loud, wasn't showy, but those who watched him knew he was already playing like a man who saw the pitch in slow motion. Between 1963 and 1966, he made 82 appearances for Bury, scoring 25 goals. From midfield, he had stamina, vision, and grace, but most of all, he had control. Not just over the ball, but over the entire rhythm of a game. But no one noticed, because he didn't advertise himself. That's when Malcolm Allison stepped in, City's assistant manager. A man who didn't care for noise, only results. He scouted Bell in silence, kept his name hidden. And when the time came, he told City to move fast before anyone else realized what was happening. In March 1966, Manchester City signed him for around £45,500. No headlines, no noise, just the quiet arrival of the player who would change their history forever. Malcolm Allison later said, "We've just signed the best midfield player in the world." He wasn't wrong. 19. March 1966. Maine Road. Colin Bell made his Manchester City debut against Derby County. He didn't score, didn't shine for the cameras. But something shifted. He played like he'd been there forever. Within weeks, he was untouchable. Within months, he was running games. He wasn't a talker, but on the pitch, everyone followed his pace. They called him the king of the Kippax. The Kippax was Maine Road's soul, the terrace that sang loudest and loved him the most, but he never needed titles. Because Bell didn't jog, he glided for 90 minutes straight, and then some. In a time when midfielders were either brutes or ghosts, Bell was both graceful with the ball and brutal with time. City had their core, and around him they built a trio that would define an era. Bell, Lee, Summerby, 3 names, 1 rhythm. A front foot team that could outfight, outrun, and outthink anyone in England. And the trophies followed. In 1967-68, just 2 years after his debut, Bell helped lead City to the First Division title. He was still only 22, but already he was the most complete midfielder in England. That same year, he finished second in the Ballon d'Or. Europe had seen what England already knew. In 1969, they won the FA Cup, beating Leicester City 1-0. Bell dominated the middle of the park, never lost shape, never lost control. In 1970, they won both the League Cup and the European Cup Winners' Cup. That year, Bell played every match in both finals. He wasn't just part of it, he was the reason it held together. By the age of 24, Colin Bell had already won every major honor a City player could dream of. No ego, no celebration tours, just medals in a drawer and lungs that never gave in. He was becoming more than a player. He was becoming presence. City didn't need to build their team around him. They just gave him the ball and the rest sorted itself out. Between 1970 and 1975, Colin Bell played football like it was a sacred rhythm. No dips, no drama. Just game after game after game, delivering the same control, the same lungs, the same unspoken command. He didn't wear the armband, but make no mistake, he led everything. He wasn't about tricks, he was about timing. He was City's balance, their system, their belief. From 1970 to 1975, Bell averaged over 40 appearances per season, League, Cup, Europe. He didn't pick his battles, he showed up for all of them. His goals never came in bursts. They came in patterns, patterns that won things. He was voted City's Player of the Year in 1972. But he didn't mention it. He didn't need awards to know who he was. In 1974, he played in another FA Cup final this time. City lost to Wolves. But Bell still ran the midfield, still covered every inch. He wasn't a moment. He was endurance, the kind that made other players collapse next to him just trying to keep up. And then came 1975. Bell was still only 29, still the heartbeat of a team that had slowly aged around him. Until the 12th of November, 1975. Manchester derby, City versus United, a collision with Martin Buchan, a knee gone. Just like that. There was no scream, no stretcher replayed on the news, just Bell on the ground, gone from the rhythm, gone from the team. He never played the same again. For 2 years, Colin Bell disappeared. He just worked, quietly, privately, trying to rebuild a knee that didn't want to listen anymore. City waited, the fans waited, and deep down everyone feared the silence meant it was over. Until Boxing Day, 26th December 1977. Manchester City versus Newcastle United. Maine Road. Bell on the bench. The crowd didn't expect it. And then in the second half, his number went up. The stadium didn't erupt. It rose. Tens of thousands standing still, not screaming, just trying to believe what they were seeing. Colin Bell walked back onto the pitch he once ruled with quiet control. And for those few minutes, City felt whole again. He didn't score, didn't run like Nijinsky. But it didn't matter. The roar that met him wasn't about what he could do, it was about who he had always been. In 1976, nearly 24,000 fans came to Maine Road for his testimonial, a number that spoke louder than any chant. He played 5 more matches that season. 1 more year followed. But the rhythm had shifted. The legs couldn't carry the weight anymore. In May 1979, Colin Bell retired from football. No grand farewell, no trophy lift. Just a man who had given everything walking off the pitch, the same way he entered it. Without fuss, without noise, and without ever needing to ask what he meant to those who watched him. Colin Bell didn't chase the England shirt. He earned it. The same way he earned everything else by running, by lasting, by being the calm in a broken system. He made his England debut in 1968, and by 1970 he was one of the first names on Alf Ramsey's team sheet. He wasn't a flair player, he didn't dribble for the crowd. But Ramsey trusted him because Bell didn't lose the ball. He didn't lose his head, and he never lost the shape of a game. In the 1970 World Cup, Bell played in the quarter-final against West Germany in the Mexican heat. It was over 40 degrees, but Bell kept running. When others wilted, he moved like it was autumn in Manchester. He didn't shout, didn't point fingers. He just kept going. 48 caps between 1968 and 1975. Debut versus Sweden. Final cap versus Czechoslovakia. Scored 9 goals and never once let the badge wear him down. But England in the 1970s? It was confusion, missed tournaments, rotating managers, no vision, no rhythm. Bell stayed through all of it, because he believed in the shirt even when the system didn't believe in itself. In Euro 1980, he was injured. In World Cup 1982, he never made it back. But no one ever questioned what he gave. He was never the face of the team, but he was the one you trusted when the game turned into chaos. No armband, no front page, just 48 quiet battles fought with respect, with stamina, and with nothing left unsaid. When the boots came off, Colin Bell didn't vanish. He didn't rebrand. He just stayed close to the game the way he had always played it, quietly and with purpose. He became a youth coach at Manchester City. He didn't teach them tricks. He taught them standards, among them Mike Summerby's son and dozens who carried his discipline into the future. No fanfare. Just time spent shaping the next generation, not into stars, but into players who understood standard. Later, he took on the role of club ambassador. Match days, charity events, VIPs who'd never heard of him shook hands with the man who once was the club. But Bell never reminded them, he never needed to, because those who knew stood straighter when he entered the room. 498 appearances, 153 goals, but numbers couldn't measure the silence he commanded. In 2004, they named the West Stand after him. Not a statue, something deeper. A stand that stood because he did. The Colin Bell Stand. No unveiling speech, no long monologue. He was awarded an MBE, inducted into Manchester City's Hall of Fame, and later the English Football Hall of Fame, though he never mentioned it. He thanked them, smiled, and went back to being present the way he always had. No books, no bitterness, just a man who never took the shirt off. 5th January 2021. Colin Bell passed away aged 74, but the Etihad didn't. The stadium fell still. City wore black armbands, and Pep Guardiola said, "He was something special, a name I knew before I ever came here." The headlines were brief, the tribute sincere but not loud. Not loud enough for a man who gave everything without ever asking to be seen. Colin Bell has died. And yet, those who knew, those who watched, those who remembered, they felt it like thunder in the chest. At the Etihad, fans laid scarves, left scarves, whispered his name. Not because they were told to mourn, but because they already were. Colin Bell didn't need a farewell. He had already given everything. And when his boots stopped moving, it was like a cathedral went quiet, not with grief, but with reverence. They say the game moved on. That new legends came. That banners were raised for other names. That time forgets even the ones who gave everything. But in Manchester, there's still a silence that knows better. A silence that wears the number 8 with reverence. Because Colin Bell was never just the past. He was the standard. The quiet one. The one who never chased applause. The one who carried the club and never once dropped its weight. He didn't ask to be remembered. So the world slowly, quietly stopped saying his name. But that's why we're saying it now. Because some players define an era. Colin Bell defined what greatness should look like when no one's looking. He wasn't a chant, he wasn't a brand, he was movement, precision, presence. He was the reason others looked better. The reason Manchester City mattered before trophies became marketing. The reason silence still feels like honor if you know who stood in it. There are louder stories, there are bigger headlines, but there will never be another Colin Bell. Subscribe if you still believe in the ones who didn't demand legacy because they lived it.